Shocking silence. CBC buried Carney's 103 ethics flags while Poilievre faces by-election ambush. In the aftermath of the April 28, 2025 snap federal election, Canadian politics has entered a turbulent phase defined by contradictions and controversies that raise serious questions about media coverage, political accountability, and democratic fairness. Mark Carney, the former Bank of Canada governor, who successfully took over leadership of the Liberal Party and became the country's new prime minister, promised a fresh start and greater fiscal discipline. However, beneath this carefully crafted image lies a staggering number of ethics concerns, 103 flags that point to possible conflicts of interest, opaque dealings, and questionable government contracts involving Carney's administration. Shockingly, many of these serious allegations have been largely ignored or buried by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, Canada's national broadcaster. While the public has been left largely in the dark about these ethics concerns, the opposite seems true for Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party. Known for his direct style and tough stance on government transparency and fiscal responsibility, Poilievre has found himself targeted with intense scrutiny during a critical by-election period. Many political observers have described the opposition's treatment of Poilievre as a calculated ambush, a concerted effort involving media narratives and political maneuvering designed to weaken his rising influence and prevent a strong conservative resurgence. This stark contrast in media treatment raises troubling questions about impartiality and the role of Canada's media institutions. The 103 ethics flags linked to Carney's administration cover a wide range of alleged improprieties. These include contracts awarded without clear competitive processes, unexplained financial benefits linked to family members of prominent Liberal figures, and concerning ties between government officials and private sector entities that benefited from Carney's policies. Despite the weight of these accusations, CBC's coverage has been muted at best. For a public broadcaster entrusted with holding power to account, this silence is deeply problematic. When serious allegations that could undermine public trust go unreported or receive only brief mentions, the public's ability to make informed decisions is compromised. Many experts argue that CBC's reluctance to highlight Carney's ethics issues stems from political considerations. Carney's leadership style, polished, technocratic, and centered on economic expertise, has won the support of moderate voters and business elites, creating a narrative of stability after years of Trudeau's turbulent tenure. This image may make critical reporting seem counterproductive to the broadcaster's goal of national unity or social cohesion. However, critics insist that journalism's foremost duty is to the truth, not political convenience. Shielding political figures from scrutiny, regardless of their popularity, risks eroding democracy itself. This imbalance in media coverage has fueled frustration and suspicion among many Canadians. Social media platforms and independent news outlets have stepped in to fill the information void, but their reach and influence remain limited compared to the national broadcaster. This media gap creates fertile ground for misinformation and partisan echo chambers, complicating the public's understanding of what is happening in Ottawa. The lack of transparency also sows distrust not only toward the government, but toward institutions like CBC, which many believe should serve as watchdogs for democracy. At the same time, Pierre Poilievre faces an entirely different political battlefield. As leader of the Conservative Party, he has become a lightning rod for political attacks. His aggressive rhetoric against government waste, high inflation, and growing public debt resonates with Canadians feeling the pinch of economic uncertainty. Yet, during this by-election period, Poilievre has been subjected to an intense campaign of opposition aimed at curbing his momentum. Media coverage often amplifies controversies and missteps associated with him, while glossing over his policy proposals or public endorsements. Political insiders have described this situation as an ambush, an environment where opposition parties, allied media, and government resources converge to dilute Poilievre's support. Tactics such as negative advertising, strategic voting campaigns, and the framing of media narratives appear designed to fracture the Conservative vote and paint Poilievre as a divisive figure unfit for leadership. This campaign of attrition not only challenges Poilievre's party but also raises concerns about the fairness of Canada's political process. Voices from across Canada's political spectrum have weighed in on this imbalance. Jagmeet Singh of the NDP has called for fair treatment of all leaders while expressing concern about government ethics, underscoring the need for transparency at all levels. Yves-François Blanchet of the Bloc Québécois has echoed these sentiments, emphasizing that Quebec voters deserve clarity on federal conduct regardless of political affiliation. These calls reflect a growing consensus that democracy depends on a level playing field where leaders are held to equal standards. Yet, many Canadians fear that the current political climate undermines these principles. The selective media focus and political targeting threaten to deepen polarization and cynicism. If Carney's administration can quietly sweep aside dozens of ethics concerns, while opposition leaders like Poilievre are publicly scrutinized and hampered by political tactics, the consequences for democratic engagement could be dire. Public trust in institutions, already fragile, risks further erosion. The stakes extend beyond political gamesmanship. A government's legitimacy rests on the public's belief that it operates ethically and transparently. If serious allegations are allowed to pass without investigation or consequence, it sets a precedent of impunity. Whistleblowers may be discouraged, corruption may flourish, and the checks and balances that protect democracy may weaken. Conversely, if opposition figures are subjected to relentless attacks without equal accountability for those in power, voters' choices are limited and democracy is undermined. For Canadian citizens, the current moment calls for vigilance and engagement. It is essential for people to seek out diverse sources of information and to hold media institutions accountable for balanced reporting. Citizens must demand that public broadcasters like CBC fulfill their role as impartial watchdogs, exposing misconduct wherever it exists. At the same time, Canadians must insist on fair electoral practices that allow opposition voices to be heard without undue interference. Ultimately, the future of Canadian democracy depends on an informed and active populace. Only through transparency, fairness, and accountability can trust be rebuilt. As the dust settles from the April election, the contrast between Carney's buried ethics flags and Poilievre's by-election struggles offers a cautionary tale. Democracy thrives when leaders of all stripes are held to the same standards and when the media faithfully reports the full truth. Anything less risks leaving the public in the dark and the democratic system weakened.